Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of WN Movie Talk. I'm Trev and I'm again in around my DVDs, and that means I'm talking about my DVD collection. This time I won't be going through it one film at a time. I've already done that. If you haven't seen that and you enjoyed that kind of thing, like I do personally, then I'll put a link up in the description below. But this time I'm going to talk about some of my favourite DVD special features. I'm a massive DVD nerd, as you can tell. I love physical media because a lot of these films you can't find on streaming platforms without having to pay £3 or £4 for them each. But when you stream something online, you don't get that package deal. You don't get all the special features that make these films so great. And that's what I'm here to talk about today. So I've got down here at my feet a bundle of my favourite DVDs with special features. Before we get into the DVDs, however, I would just like to say, if you are a physical media collector or you just enjoy films, then make sure you subscribe to WN Movie Talk, because there'll be lots more movie content. Also check out our WN Movie Talk podcast, which is available on all good podcast platforms. So subscribe, like, comment, blah blah blah. Should we do this? One of my first ones I'd like to discuss is Blade Runner: The Final Cut. When I watched this, when I got this years and years ago, I hadn't seen Blade Runner for a long time, and I always get these films and I watch the special features first. A lot of the films I've got, I watch the special features more than I watch the films. And this one here, I got this and I sat through the special features and it seemed to take days. I seemed to be going through them for days, and they was really interesting. And it's the story of sort of Ridley Scott against the studios and all the different versions he had to do to try and get his vision on the screen, and some really good production discussions, special effects and things like that. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it felt like I say, it felt like I was watching them for ages, all these special features. And then I thought, well, I'll put the film on now, and it's one of them films I find completely dull. There's something, it looks beautiful, there's some great performances in it, but it is just a slow watch. It is a hard watch for me, and I found the film, The Final Cut, Ridley Scott loves his special editions, director's cuts and final cuts, but yeah, I just found it a bit dull, really, which a lot of you probably think, what are you on about, Trev? It's a great film, and I'm sure it is, and I'm sure I will give it another try at some point, but I felt the same when I've watched it in the past, and I felt the same watching it then. I was really excited once I'd watched all the special features and really enjoyed them. I thought, let's watch the film. I was a bit nonplussed. The next box set I'm going to discuss is the Alien Quadrilogy. And now I've got this on Blu-ray as well, and it's got different special features on it. But this one here I've had for years, and this is why I didn't get rid of it when I got the Blu-ray set, because you get 2 discs for each film. So Alien will have the film, the special edition on that disc as well, and then all the special features. And this goes into real great depth as well, and it also tells the sort of behind the scenes story, and I like a behind the scenes story where it's truthful and honest. And obviously Alien 3, a lot of sort of controversy in the making of that, David Fincher's debut picture, and he didn't really get the free rein that he was promised. And it's a no holds bars documentary, and everyone sort of says the issues they had, and I like that when you watch a special feature and it's all promotional and everyone's, oh, this is great, we loved each other, it was a great experience, and you just don't really fall for it. Well, Alien Quadrilogy, I just found these special features to be really in depth through the process of like making the film, planning, you know, where it all started and how it ended up as what it did. But like I say, with a lot of the in-house arguments all shining through, there's no hiding. I like that, no holes barred. So that was another one that I really enjoyed. Similarly, the Batman Anthology Blu-ray set, I bought this back along, and there's a sort of a retrospective making of each movie on here, and they go into a lot of detail and a lot about the history, and you know, especially with the first film, the Tim Burton 1989 movie, they go into how like long it took them to try and get a proper Batman to the screen, and trying to shed the Adam West sort of campiness. But this box set here had another good retrospective documentaries all about that, so I found them really interesting, film by film. Batman and Robin not so much, but it was interesting to sort of say that how each Batman film symbolised a different era in the Batman history. But by Batman and Robin, it was sort of like, right, we want to make these toys, so you've got to design your film around the toys, and they admit that in this documentary, so it's quite candid, and yeah, I quite enjoyed that. Two of my favourite films growing up, and two of the earliest DVDs I got, was Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Jaws. This is my 4K version of Jaws, but the special features on these are just brilliant. I love watching Spielberg discussing his movies, and Richard Dreyfuss as well in both of them. Just the behind the scenes story of Jaws, everyone knows it by now. I've been and seen the play as well that Robert Shaw's son wrote, The Shark Is Not Working. And just really good, insightful documentaries again about the production and where, you know, the ideas germinated and how it all came to the screen and the legacy that these films leave. So they was two of my favourites as well, two of my classics. Then I bought the Superman 5-film collection, and these two have got interesting special features. There's an hour-long documentary on 1, 2 and 3, but as I was saying earlier about sometimes they're sort of promotional. These are promotional. These are produced by the Salkinds, Christopher Reeve, discussing each movie. However, it's like a time capsule because they was made at the time that these films came out, and they were just great sort of to look at behind the scenes as sort of shown at the time that these films were coming out. And especially with the first one, you can really anticipate people sort of not knowing how these films are going to turn out. You know, this is one of the first superhero films. Incidentally, the first film I ever watched at the cinema, Superman. But yeah, really great set. I do discuss this in another video. I'll put a link to that below as well. Now we're getting into some of my real favourites. First of all, this series here, it's not a film, it's a TV series. I did discuss it in my look through my entire collection. If you want to watch that, it's great. I love it. 2 hours and a quarter of me going through my DVDs one by one. It's ASMR for the blockbuster generation, I assure you. But here we go. The Red Dwarfs, series 1 to 8. I mentioned it a little bit in that video, but I loved Red Dwarf growing up. I love the earlier series 1 and 2, when it's all a bit more static. Then in season 3 they bring Crichton in and the new Holly. Basically, the special features on this are great. There's an hour-long documentary on each season, at least an hour long. I think some of them are longer, and that's really insightful. Tells about the production and how it all came about, who produced them, you know, the BBC finding a slot for them and making them, not really holding out much hope, and then they becoming this phenomenon. But my favourite part of this is the audio commentaries, where you get the main cast in each series sitting in and talking about the production of each series. You watch it and you can just hear the lads remembering as they're going, you know, the history of it and the drunken antics of Craig Charles and Danny John Jules and things, and Robert Llewellyn coming in as a sort of a third wheel but feeling, you know, real part of it. Then you've got the evolution of Holly and how Norman Lovett as Holly, he might have been a great character, but he was a bit of a miserable git on set, and he was a bit cantankerous and a bit awkward. So that's why they brought the girl Holly in 3, because they was like, we don't really need you. You were trying to rock the boat a bit, so they sort of get rid of him. And it's all there in this documentary. They're all completely open about it. And then the girl who plays Holly, she sort of says how in the later series she's out of place a bit because Crichton does her job now. He does all the scientific exposition, and it's just really interesting, just really great. I really enjoy it. I've watched the special features several times. Each time me and my son rewatch these videos, I end up watching the documentaries and the audio commentaries again. Just absolutely fantastic. Similarly, Bond, James Bond. Well, this is up to the end of Pierce Brosnan, and you can see there's a spine. It does show pictures, but again, that is a real mind-blowing series, and I got a bit obsessed with James Bond. I've discussed this in episodes of the podcast if you want to listen to that. I really enjoyed Skyfall. Basically wanted to do a review, didn't know enough about Bond, so I started collecting these, and because they was making up the spine, I collected the whole set, and I end up watching every single James Bond film, reading every single James Bond book. But the special features on these, each one has an hour-long documentary all about the production and the legacy of that particular film, and that's just interesting, and I love watching them all the way through. it just tells a story of the evolution of Bond and how, you know, audiences weren't ready for certain sort of changes in Bond when it went from Roger Moore to Timothy Dalton, whereas Timothy Dalton's Bond is actually closer to the Daniel Craig Bond, which is closer to the books. But, you know, it's just really interesting. It's all production. You know, you hear from everyone in these series. Even the cleaners come in and sort of have their 10 pence worth. It's just great. A really insightful look into the production of these movies. But now we're getting on to my two favourites. First of all, the Star Wars Trilogy box set. This is just the original trilogy. It's this one disc here that has all the special features on, and I just love the story of the original trilogy, New Hope through to Jedi, Return of the Jedi. But I love the fact that no one got it, and George Lucas was out on a limb producing this first film, and the documentary, it's heart-rending when you're watching it, and you feel for George Lucas, and it tells the story of the Star Wars films, basically the story of George Lucas and his path to get there as well. But I just love that he's sort of up against it, and up against the studios, and up against the actors, the production team. No one knew what he was going on about. Everyone thought he was mad. Even his friends just didn't think much of it, except for Spielberg. But Brian De Palma's like famous for sort of slating it, saying, "George, what the hell are you going on about? You'll never have a hit." But I just love that, you know, once you get to the end of A New Hope, the documentary, and then it's this massive success, and it's heart, you know, you feel real, oh God, it chokes you listening to them say how it could have been a flop, could have been the biggest disaster of George Lucas's career, could have been it for George Lucas. And then it went on to become the biggest thing, changed cinema completely. But then even into Empire Strikes Back, then, you know, the story of that is great, where George Lucas basically puts up his own money to make this sequel, and he's got the money from the toys, which was a great strategy. No one had an idea the toys would make that sort of money, and then he was managed to, almost free from the studios, finance the other films. Just a really great special features, and it goes into sort of how all the sounds are put together, the production of all the costumes and the aesthetic, and ILM. There's another really good documentary on Disney Plus all about ILM as well that's worth checking out. But yeah, that is my second favourite. Before I get into my favourite box set, I will just like to say thank you for watching. Please like this video and subscribe, and also drop a comment below if you're a DVD collector. What are your favourite special features? What are your films with the favourite special features? I'd love to hear it. Also, I keep banging on about it, but my video where I go through my entire collection, which I do highly recommend, just stick it on, have a cup of tea, watch 20 minutes a day, you know, and just have a look through my set, and if there's anything in that collection that you think, Trev, I want to hear you talk about that, then please comment below on that video. Anyway, my favourite DVD, the Lord of the Rings extended versions. The documentaries on this, again, it tells a story. It is like a journey, and there's so many parts of it. It starts off with Tolkien and his story, and then it goes through sort of how that's, you know, the Hobbits come around and then evolved into Lord of the Rings, and how he invented the language, and where he found his influences, and you're talking to family members of Tolkien, and all this is going on before you even get to the production of the films, and it's just hours and hours and hours of in-depth documentaries looking into these productions, and it tells a story. And then once they're all on set and you see sort of the teams all working together, and Peter Jackson making this, and remember, this isn't a studio film, these are independent films. You know, New Line Cinema. Yes, they had a bit more clout than a lot of independent studios, but these were sort of moderately budget films that just blew everything apart, and it's just amazing to see it on here, and to see the productions, and to hear the stories, and to see how some of it's CG and some of it's like natural sets. It's just an amazing story. And I have now also got the Hobbit extended versions, which I would also like to have a look through. Obviously the Lord of the Rings, they also look like books. The design is really nice, you know, they look great on your shelf, the extended versions. Plus the extended versions themselves are great, you know, that extra sort of 45 minutes in some places. You'd think it'd be too long, but they're just enjoyable movies, really well done. Lord of the Rings more so than The Hobbit. So there you have it. That's my favourite special features, the ones I watch again and again. If you've enjoyed this, give it a like and a comment below. Let me know what your favourites are, or if you've got any of these. And we'll see you all again soon with some more looks into my DVDs coming up shortly. Thanks everyone. Bye.